Alright, so you want to level extremely quickly in Diablo 4, or maybe you want a ton of loot very fast. Well, here are some of the biggest tips you need to know right now. First of all, there's a neat method right now to quickly reach level 60 on any character in literally 10, 15, 20 minutes at max. And all you need is a friend who already plays in high pit levels, 55 to 60 plus, which is the equivalent of Torment tier 3 and tier 4. Because if you join them in and just stay at the start while they are clearing out that level, you're going to gain insane amounts of levels extremely quickly. I'm talking about 37 levels on about pit level 55 to 60 on the very first run, which is basically just a couple of minutes. Rinse and repeat this 3 or 4 more times, and that's going to bring you to level 60 on that character like it's nothing. The higher the pit level, the more XP you get, and yes, it's going to count even if you didn't yourself unlock that torment tier on your character and account just yet. And this can work both ways. For example, if you yourself are high level and help somebody out, maybe they can later on help you level up your alt characters even faster if you don't want to spend time leveling up the normal way. I know it can get tedious, plus a lot of these farming methods in the past have also been nerfed. I do know of one that used to be very cool at the start of Diablo 4 launch, but yeah, Blizzard didn't take too long before they nerfed that. So go ahead, do it right now before it's too late. Second of all, the next thing you're going to want to do as you just progress in the game and do a bunch of content is to jump in and do the Infernal Hordes. This is basically for a ton of loot very fast, and also a lot of uniques because they seem to be almost guaranteed as a drop once you defeat the council. And the thing about this is that most of, if not all of the tips from the previous seasons are still going to apply to it. So if you get a very high locket of like 10 runs and you also follow this guy right here with the best of the infernal offerings, you're going to get 1,000 plus of those modes really easily. So focus on having those Hellborn to spawn. Also focus on increasing the spawn rate of events during the run, and pretty much all of these in the A and the top tier are going to be amazing. You can easily reach that high number, and then when you're at the end and have defeated the council, you're going to only have to spend about 200 of those points on the treasure chest, which is going to be even more ways to acquire uniques, maybe even ancestrals on the higher torment tiers. But besides that, you still have the gold and the materials, and I highly encourage you to get the materials. They are going to be a lot more important, specifically because they also give you a lot of up the size. So you're going to spend a lot of that to upgrade your gear, become stronger, and this is going to convert all your remaining modes into these specific materials. I would not say you really need the gold one, since you can get a ton of gold from other sources anyway. But while you're doing all of this, for the next tip to get even more loot than before is to bring your mercenaries with you and get them to level 10 ASAP. It shouldn't take too long. But at the same time, I also recommend to also pop off one of these seething opals that you get from the Realm Walker events, as that's going to increase your XP with the Zechariah remnants as well. More on that in just a little bit, but in the meantime, if you max out your mercenaries, as you can see, you get all of these caches of loot from them, as well as entries at the barter vendor right here in the middle. And that can be a ton of loot. Like, you're going to get, like, I'm not sure, 20 caches, if not even more in total, before you even get to spend your reports to buy additional ones from the barter vendor. And that, as you guessed it, means a lot more loot, a lot more access to ancestrals, even uniques can drop from these treasure chests, plus a lot of boss summoning materials. But your mercenaries will continue to just earn a lot more pale marks as you level them up. They pretty much level up infinitely. Every 25,000 XP, you're going to get another 100 of those. So if you bring 2 mercenaries, that's 200, which is going to give you at least 1 reset, or at least like 5 caches or items from this loot vendor right here. Like you can see, most of these cost only like 31 to 45 pale marks. Maybe the occasional ancestral may cost a little bit more than that. Plus, you gain a ton of other crafting mats in the process. Now, like I said, you also get a ton of those boss summoning materials. If you're following a build guide, definitely get all of the uniques that enable your build to become even stronger, so that you can clear things even faster. In the case of Spiritborns, especially the ones that use Evade Eagle, Duriel is one of your most important ones, but to also summon him, you're going to need to defeat Varshan and Gregoire. But once you've acquired those items to summon Duriel, you can go ahead and farm for the Sepazontek, for example, which is your biggest enabler for this build, for at least until it still lasts and it doesn't get nerfed. You can even hunt for an ancestral version. The higher, of course, the bonus stats, the better in this case. But even if you just have or find an ancestral, that can boost you all the way to Torment form if you just do a bunch of master working on it and at least get a bit of luck with some of the bonuses that you get on it. Again, you can just do this a few more times, maybe even jump in with some of your friends or use the party finder, people. I'm not sure why nobody is using it, but it's so useful to find parties or list them, especially if you're doing boss layers and Uber bosses, so that you can circle farm that amongst each other very fast for even more chances at that loot. Now, before I jump into another tip, I recommend paying attention to the urn of curiosities as well, which you can pretty much max out with 4 smoldering ashes. I highly recommend that because that gives you a 40% chance to have a second item when you purchase items from the purveyor of curiosities. So that pretty much means your obols are going to be a lot more efficient because you have a higher chance to get double the amount of items you normally get. So 2 instead of just 1. And since you're going to quickly reach the cap, especially as you do a lot of pit runs, you're going to want to gamble away for that specific piece of gear that you really need to bring your build to the next level. You may find a very good legendary or maybe even an ancestral or a unique this way, which may just elevate your build even more. But it doesn't stop here. There are a few more tips that I have for you, and the next one is going to be for the Realm Walker event. Yes, I know it's annoyingly slow. Yes, it may not be the best, but there's a reason why you might want to still jump in and do it. Well, actually a couple of them. So the biggest reason is because you're going to really want the seething opals. There are multiple of them, and basically the way you specifically farm for a certain type of seething opal is by choosing the appropriate option right here at the realm gate once you enter the seething realm. So for example, the torment challenges here will give us at the end of the run seething opals that boost the boss summoning items drop rate as well as infernal compasses, so that we can do even more infernal hordes. You know, that thing that gave us even more items in the first place. But the other gates will give you different opals. So the gold one will give you seething opal of gold, which obviously increases gold drop rate. The equipment one just gives you more chances at dropping a lot more loot. So if you pick that, you're going to get the seething opals from it. But yeah, typically I like the material one, especially when doing nightmare dungeons. And I also really enjoy the torment one, especially when doing hell tides. But you can also mix and match these since, yeah, enemies drop things in both of these scenarios. But it gives you one more thing, and that's going to be a 15% increase to your reputation with the Zakharum remnants, and you're really going to want to also go ahead and farm that. So the Zakharum remnants are going to give you, or well, this NPC right here will give you more loot caches. So this can include materials, but eventually it jumps to high-grade legendary gear, all the way to some of the bigger options right here, including a unique cache at the end. So just to give you an example, if you pop off any of those opals, that's going to give you that 15% increase in the XP rate. And if, for example, you do a quick nightmare dungeons, which you're going to want to do anyway for the up the side, you're going to get about 100 plus reputation with this. That is, of course, only on Torment 3. I haven't tested yet on Tier 4, but it's probably going to be higher. And I suggest doing this either during the Nightmare Dungeons or during the Torment, again, using the appropriate opal. So if you're doing a lot of Nightmare Dungeons, yeah, that material one may be better since you're farming anyway for crafting mats. Now, the next tip to further optimize your run is going to be focusing on the Blood Maiden whenever you find a Hell Tide going on. Pretty much everybody who wants a ton of loot very fast is going to go ahead and farm that on repeat. You will need Baleful Hearts, but there's a way we're going to do this anyway, in which you're going to get those while also farming her. So first of all, she's pretty good at also giving you the 5 points you need for the Tree of Whispers. She literally always gives you that once per Hell Tide, so you can pretty much complete half of it by just taking her down. And usually there's a lot of players having a fight with her all the time, so go in and farm that on repeat. Second of all, as you defeat her, you get a ton of these Torment motes anyway that you're going to use on the Torment treasure chests. And specifically, as you get like 60 or 70 of them pretty much every single Maiden kill, you're going to want to always look for the 2 Tortured Mysteries gift that spawn in that Hell Tide. One is going to be in the first region, the second is going to be in the second one, but pay attention to the orange one. Go ahead and unlock it with the 250 of those motes, and you're going to get even more chances at loot. But also even more baleful hearts, which you need to summon the Maiden anyway, plus a lot more boss summoning materials, plus a lot more infernal lockets. Pretty much almost feeds into itself, especially if you do this with at least a couple other players. Rinse and repeat, and you should also be done with at least like 3/4 of a Hell Tide by just doing one of these runs. Furthermore, remember how I said that finishing Tree of Whispers in the middle of Hell Tides is very lucrative and it's just a lot faster since you do it anyway at the same time? Well, just finish it, and by this time you only need one more event at most maybe, so you can go in and give in the Tree of Whispers and collect even more caches of loot. Which, guess what, means even more loot, even more legendaries, and way more chances at a proper ancestral. Now, we're almost done with the guide. There are a couple more things I suggest not skipping on. One of them is obviously going to be the seasonal challenges. You're going to probably complete these anyway by the time you reach Torment Tier 4, or at least get to the second last one. And every single tier gives you a handful of more treasure caches. Very easy to complete, and for the last couple ones, just pay attention to these objectives that may be a bit more specific. In that regard, just finish them off. You should be very close to it, and you're going to get even more chances at loot, including a guaranteed way to pretty much build or craft a mythical item, because the second, or well, the last chapter reward will guarantee one of those fragments that you need to craft mythical items in the first place. Another one would be to pay attention to the Dark Citadel weekly cash challenge, so you can go ahead and complete that as well. I'm pretty certain that everybody is in the Citadel right now completing it. Not only are the runs extremely lucrative for the amount of loot that you get, but you also get that extra cash every week pretty much. So go ahead and complete those wings and get done with it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.